My name is Diane D. Waite. I'm 37, and I work as a logistics manager for a regional distribution company in Ohio. I've always been the steady type. I like predictable routines, balanced budgets, and knowing exactly where my money is going. I track expenses in spreadsheets. I plan quarterly projections. Stability matters to me. My husband Mark is 34. He works part-time in event planning and full-time in family crisis management. We've been married 6 years and renting a 3-bedroom townhouse for the last 4. No kids, just us. At least that's how it was supposed to stay. Mark has always been close to his family. Close in the way where daily phone calls are mandatory and minor inconveniences get treated like national emergencies. His parents have struggled financially for years. Poor planning, inconsistent work, and a tendency to treat credit cards like income. His younger brother Kyle, 29, has never held a job longer than 8 months. There's always a reason it's someone else's fault. For the first few years of our marriage, I kept boundaries firm. I would help occasionally. A small loan here, covering a utility bill once. But I made it clear I was not becoming the family bailout plan. Mark would get irritated, but let it go. Until 3 weeks ago. He came home one evening with that look. The one where he has already made a decision and is about to inform me of it. My parents are losing their house, he said. Kyle, too. They're all moving in with us. It's temporary. I asked how temporary. He waved his hand. A few months, maybe 6. We live in a rental. 3 bedrooms. One is our office. The other barely fits a guest bed. I asked how exactly 5 additional adults were going to function in that space. Families make it work, he said. I told him that wasn't happening, not without a real financial plan, timelines, and rent contributions. I wasn't signing up to fund 3 extra adults indefinitely. That's when he dropped it. My family is moving in. If you can't accept that, we're done. He said it calmly, confident, like he assumed I would cave. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "All right, then we're done." He laughed. I wasn't joking. He honestly thought I was bluffing. Mark has a habit of using ultimatums as leverage. Not constantly, but strategically. If he wants something badly enough, he frames it as emotional loyalty. You're either with me or against me. Most of the time, it's over smaller things. Holiday plans, money sent to his parents, whether we attend every family birthday like it's mandatory attendance. This time, he miscalculated. After I said we're done, he smirked and said, "Don't be dramatic. You know I don't mean it like that." I asked him directly, "So if I say no, your family isn't moving in?" He folded his arms. "They're moving in. I already told them they could." That part caught me off guard. He hadn't asked. He had promised. When, I asked. Next weekend. 8 days. 5 adults. In a rental that wasn't even ours. I asked how much they were contributing financially. They'll figure something out once they're back on their feet. That's not a number, I said. He got irritated fast. You're acting like this is permanent. They're my family. They took care of me my whole life. I didn't argue about loyalty. I stuck to logistics. The rent is $2,400. Utilities average $450. Groceries would double at minimum. The lease is in both our names. If they damage the property, we're liable. You always reduce everything to money, he snapped. No, I replied evenly. I reduced shared living to sustainability. He told me I lacked compassion. I told him compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. That's when he repeated it louder this time. If you can't accept my family moving in, we're done. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded. Then we're done. He walked away expecting me to follow him into the bedroom and negotiate. I didn't. I opened my laptop instead and checked our lease agreement. Breaking it early would cost 2 months' rent. That number didn't scare me. Funding 5 additional adults indefinitely did. By midnight, I had run the math 3 different ways. There was no version of this where it didn't spiral. Increased utilities, increased food, additional vehicle violations, higher wear and tear, risk of eviction if occupancy rules were breached. And the most interesting part, he truly believed I would absorb it. He had no contingency plan for what would happen if I didn't. The next morning, he acted like nothing had shifted. Coffee, phone scrolling, casual tone. I asked one practical question. Have you told your parents? I told them we're handling it, he said without looking up. That wasn't an answer. By lunchtime, his mom called. I know because he put it on speaker without asking me. We can be there Saturday, she said, voice already edged with urgency. Kyle can bring the air mattress. Saturday. 3 days. Mark looked at me like I was supposed to confirm it, like this was logistics being finalized. That won't be happening, I said calmly. Silence on the line. His mom asked what that meant. It means we are not able to house 5 additional adults in a rental property. Mark cut in immediately. We are able. Diane is just being difficult. There it was. Public framing. I was the obstacle. His mom's tone shifted to guilt, heavy and thick. We would do it for you. I didn't engage emotionally. I stuck to numbers. If you move in, how much can you contribute monthly toward rent and utilities? Dead air. We'll need time to stabilize first, she said. How long? I asked. We'll see. That was the whole plan. We'll see. Kyle jumped in from somewhere in the background. It's not like we're asking for charity. You are, I said plainly. Mark shot me a look like I had insulted royalty. His mom said she couldn't believe I was speaking that way to family. I ended the call. Not angrily, just cleanly. Mark exploded once the phone disconnected. You embarrassed me. No, I clarified. I asked for a plan. He accused me of being selfish, of caring more about money than people, of lacking loyalty. Then he said something interesting. If you leave over this, don't expect me to beg you back. I'm not expecting that, I said. By that afternoon, I had toured a one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away. Small, clean, affordable, month-to-month lease option. By evening, I had submitted an application. He thought I was trying to scare him. I wasn't. I was removing myself from the blast radius. Because if his family moved in without my income supporting that house, the numbers changed dramatically. And he hadn't done that math yet. 2 days later, my application was approved. I didn't announce it dramatically. I didn't threaten him with it. I just forwarded the lease to my personal email and scheduled a moving truck for Sunday morning. Mark still believed this was a power struggle he would win. Saturday afternoon, his parents showed up anyway. Not fully moved in, just scoping. His dad walked through the townhouse like he was inspecting property he already owned. His mom started talking about where they could set up a temporary sleeping area in the dining room. Kyle tested the couch cushions like he was measuring comfort. I stood in the doorway and let the scene play out for about 5 minutes. Then I asked again, what is the monthly financial contribution plan? His dad laughed. We're family. We're not tenants. Exactly, I said. Mark pulled me aside and hissed that I was humiliating him. No, I said. I'm being clear. His mom started unpacking a box, just enough to signal assumption. That's when I said it plainly. I signed a lease this morning. I'm moving out tomorrow. Everything stopped. Mark stared at me like I had slapped him. You're choosing an apartment over your marriage. No, I replied evenly. I'm choosing sustainability over chaos. His dad scoffed. Kyle muttered something about me being uptight. His mom looked offended, like I had betrayed a sacred tradition. I walked to the kitchen counter and handed Mark a printed copy of the lease break clause. 2 months penalty, I said. I'll pay my half and transfer the remainder of the lease to you if you want to stay. His eyes widened. You're serious? Yes. Kyle shook his head. She's overreacting. I ignored him. I told Mark something simple. If you want them here, that's your decision, but it won't be under my financial responsibility. His dad tried one last angle. You're abandoning your husband when he needs you. I'm stepping aside from a decision I didn't agree to, I answered. Sunday morning, I packed my essentials. Bed, desk, clothes, kitchen basics, nothing dramatic, no screaming, no slamming doors. Mark didn't try to stop me. He kept saying, you'll regret this. I didn't respond. By 2 p.m, I was in a 650 square foot, one-bedroom apartment. Quiet, cheap. Mine. That evening, he texted me. They're moving in tomorrow. I replied once. Understood. Then I turned off my phone. Because now the math would start without me. And math doesn't negotiate. The first week in the one-bedroom felt strange. Not lonely, just quiet. I had a mattress on the floor, a folding table for my laptop, and a coffee maker on the counter. No dining room arguments. No speakerphone crisis calls, no tension. On Wednesday, I checked our shared bank account. The rent for the townhouse had posted. Mark hadn't transferred his half yet. I didn't text him immediately. I waited. By Friday, nothing. I sent one message. Rent is due. I've transferred my portion, plus the lease break installment. Please handle the remainder. His response came fast. Things are tight right now. That was quick. 5 adults now living in that rental. Utilities already climbing. Grocery bills doubled. His parents hadn't found work yet. Kyle, according to what little I'd heard, was exploring options. I replied simply, I won't be covering additional costs. He fired back. You left me with this mess. No, I responded. I opted out before it became mine. Saturday evening, he called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. His dad's truck had broken down. They needed money for repairs, or he couldn't get to job interviews. Could I help just this once? The phrase just this once tends to repeat itself. I didn't respond. Monday morning, I received an email from our landlord addressed to both of us. Noise complaints. Parking violations. Extra vehicles exceeding lease terms. 3 cars, 1 truck, guests overnight. That lease had strict occupancy rules. I forwarded the email to Mark and asked one question. Are you aware you're violating occupancy limits? He replied an hour later. Stop acting like my enemy. I wasn't acting like anything. I was documenting. By week 2, he sent another message. Can we talk about the lease? We might not be able to afford it. There it was. The math. Without my full income, the rental was unsustainable. His part-time event job wasn't covering 5 adults and increased utilities. I asked directly, what is the monthly contribution from your parents? Silence. Kyle had picked up 2 shifts at a bar. Temporary. His dad had applied to places. Pending. His mom was figuring something out, which meant nothing concrete. I sat at my folding table in my small apartment and ran the numbers again. It was collapsing exactly as projected. And the most interesting part, he had framed my departure as abandonment. But if I had stayed, the collapse would have just taken longer and cost me more. By week 3, the landlord sent a formal notice. Unauthorized occupants. 30 days to correct the violation or the lease would be terminated. Mark forwarded it to me with one line. This is because you left. I read that twice. No, I typed back. This is because 5 adults are living in a space designed for 2. He called that night. Not angry. Strained. The landlord says we have to either remove occupants or reapply with updated income verification. That part mattered. Updated income verification meant proof of earnings for everyone living there. Does your dad have a current pay stub? I asked calmly. No, Kyle. He just started at the bar. It's part-time. Your mom. She's looking. There it was again. Looking. The townhouse required combined income at least 3 times the rent. Standard. With me gone, Mark alone didn't qualify. With 3 unemployed adults added, they definitely didn't. I told him what the landlord would likely do. Either demand they leave or move toward eviction. He snapped. You're enjoying this. I wasn't. I was detached. There's a difference. 2 days later, he texted again. We're short on rent. Can you cover 1 more month while we figure this out? No. Just no. He tried another angle. You promised to support me in marriage. I did, I replied. Not to underwrite decisions I didn't agree to. The next week, I received another email from the landlord. Rent partially unpaid. Late fees applied. That's when I called my attorney. Because my name was still on that lease, we reviewed options. I had already paid my portion, plus the lease break installment. My liability was limited if they defaulted after formal notice. Mark had chosen to remain. Now the spiral had real numbers attached to it. By the end of the month, I drove past the townhouse once. Not to check on him, just habit. 3 cars crammed into the driveway. Extra trash bags near the garage. A couch visible through the front window that wasn't ours. The math wasn't theoretical anymore. It was visible. And the most telling part, he still hadn't apologized. He just kept asking for more time. Time doesn't pay rent. Income does. And neither had increased. By the end of the 2nd month, I stopped waiting for him to reverse course. The landlord issued a second notice. Rent still short. Occupancy still in violation. Late fees stacking. The language in the email shifted from please correct to failure to comply. That's when my attorney said something that settled it. You are legally separated in practice. If reconciliation is not your goal, file now before financial damage compounds. That sentence didn't feel dramatic. It felt procedural. I filed for divorce the following Tuesday. No confrontation, no ultimatum, just paperwork citing irreconcilable differences. I didn't inform Mark beforehand. He found out when he was served. He called immediately. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail that oscillated between anger and disbelief. You're filing because my family needed help. No. I filed because his solution required sacrificing our stability without consent. He sent a long message that night. You could have stayed and helped us manage it. Instead, you ran. Managing chaos is not the same as preventing it. The next day, he emailed asking if I was serious. I replied once. Yes, all communication should go through counsel moving forward. The tone shifted quickly after that. First panic, then bargaining. He asked if we could pause the filing until things stabilized with the lease. That confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't about marriage anymore. It was about financial containment. 3 days later, the landlord began formal eviction proceedings, not immediate removal. But official, public record, I wasn't surprised. 5 adults, insufficient income. Repeated violations. Math doesn't care about ultimatums. A mutual friend told me Kyle quit the bar job after 2 weeks. Not a good fit. His dad's truck still wasn't repaired. His mom had started talking about applying for assistance programs. Meanwhile, I was in a small, clean apartment with one utility bill and predictable expenses. Not glamorous, just sustainable. Melissa sent one last message before her attorney formally stepped in. "You destroyed our marriage over pride." I didn't answer. Pride didn't break it. Assumption did. She assumed I would fund whatever decision she made. When that assumption collapsed, so did the plan. During mediation, we sat across from each other at a long conference table. No yelling. No theatrics. Just paperwork. Her lawyer focused heavily on the lease liability. If the eviction went through formally, both our names would be attached to the record. My attorney calmly presented the timeline. I had paid my portion. I had given notice. I had secured alternate housing before violations escalated. Melissa looked exhausted. "If you hadn't left, we wouldn't be here," she said quietly. "If I had stayed, we would still be here," I replied. "Just later, and with my credit damaged too." Her father had managed to get temporary warehouse work. Kyle was home during the day. Her mother had picked up part-time cleaning shifts. Combined, they still didn't meet the income requirement for the rental. The landlord had offered one option: vacate voluntarily, avoid full eviction on record. 10 days. Melissa asked if I would co-sign a new rental for them so they could move somewhere larger together. I almost thought she was joking. "You're divorcing me anyway," she said. "Why not help one last time?" "Because helping once becomes helping again," I answered. She shifted back to accusation. "You're punishing my family." "No," I said evenly. "I removed myself from financing them. Those are different things." By the end of mediation, the divorce terms were nearly finalized. Clean separation. No shared assets beyond minimal household items. No spousal support. Each party responsible for personal debts incurred after separation. That clause mattered, because by then, credit card balances in her name had increased sharply. Security deposits, moving expenses, utility reconnect fees. I signed my portion. 3 days later, I drove past the townhouse again. The driveway was empty. A week after that, I heard through a friend that they had moved into a smaller duplex 2 towns over. 4 adults in 2 bedrooms. Kyle back on the couch. On paper, manageable. In practice, pressure. Constant noise. Shared bathrooms. Shared expenses that still didn't add up. Tension turned into blame quickly. Apparently, her father said she promised stability. Her mother said Diane never would have let it get this bad. That part almost made me laugh. I didn't let it get that bad. That was the point. 4 months after I moved out, the divorce was finalized. No courtroom drama. No shouting matches. Just signatures and a judge who barely looked up from the file. I walked out of the courthouse lighter than I walked in. Not because his situation spiraled, but because I wasn't carrying it anymore. The townhouse lease officially terminated after they vacated. My credit stayed intact. That alone was worth every uncomfortable conversation. A mutual friend ran into Mark recently and filled me in without me asking. The duplex situation didn't last. 4 adults in 2 bedrooms sounds manageable on paper. In reality, it's pressure. His dad's warehouse job cut hours. Kyle lost his couch spot after an argument and moved in with a friend. His mom was exhausted from cleaning shifts. Money arguments became daily routine. Eventually, Mark rented a small studio on his own, smaller than my first 1-bedroom. Higher rent than he expected. Event planning income fluctuates seasonally. He's working more now than he ever did while we were married. Last week, he sent one final message through a mutual friend. She didn't think I would actually leave. She thought I'd cool off, that I'd prioritize the marriage over the logistics. That sentence summed it up perfectly. He believed loyalty meant absorbing consequences without limits. I believed loyalty required agreement. We were operating on different definitions. A few weeks ago, I ran into him unexpectedly at a grocery store. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Aisle 7. He looked thinner, tired. Not in a tragic way, just worn down by constant adjustment. When your life runs on emergency mode long enough, it shows. We stood there awkwardly for a moment before he spoke. I didn't think it would get that bad. I nodded once. That was always the gap between us, I said. I ran projections, you ran hope. He gave a small, tired smile. My parents are talking about relocating, he said. Kyle's still figuring things out. Figuring things out usually means nothing has changed. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. If I had asked instead of told you, would you have stayed? I thought about it honestly. If there had been a written plan, timelines, financial contributions, clear boundaries, maybe. He nodded slowly. But that wasn't what happened, I added. You gave me an ultimatum, and I accepted it. He looked down at his cart for a moment. I really thought you'd fold. That was the assumption that cost him the most. Because when someone builds a plan on the belief that you'll absorb it, they rarely prepare for the alternative. We said goodbye without hostility. Driving home, I realized something that's easy to miss in stories like this. I didn't win. He didn't lose. But his ultimatum forced reality to surface faster. If 5 adults with unstable income were going to collapse under shared expenses, it was going to happen whether I was there or not. The only difference is I chose not to fund the lesson. Now I live in a slightly larger apartment than the first one. Still modest, still quiet. My savings have recovered, my credit is clean, my stress level is measurable and low. No ultimatums, no emergency family summits, just quiet. And quiet doesn't demand anything from me. When someone says, accept this or we're done, they're assuming you're afraid of being done. Sometimes the most stable decision you can make is agreeing.